everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. Now today's video is going to be a library book haul. So in the UK now a lot of our restrictions are slowly easing. We have gradually started coming out of a national lockdown and the rules have recently changed to allow us to be able to go to the library and to browse. So before the national lockdown we were set to 20 minutes of browsing time and there was other restrictions on with computer usage and things like that. Since we've come out of this lockdown, as long as we queue to get in and we track and trace, we're allowed to go in for as long as we see fit. So I took myself down yesterday to the library. I'm sorry if my face looks really red and hot. I have been putting some creams on my face and then I've moisturised afterwards and I've just come out of the shower. So it looks a bit hot to touch because I've put a few removal creams on, which obviously get quite red on the face. But it's a nice quiet Sunday and I'm filming before we have our Sunday tea and everything, so this was just the best time to film, so ignore all of this. But yeah, I went to the library yesterday and the librarians were lovely. I had a good chat with one of the librarians about all the new stock they have, because she was telling me how they've got a lot of new books in since the lockdown. They've been able to pre-order and order a lot of brand new releases. And we were talking about how useful the library is, especially because a lot of new releases come out in hardback and how expensive it would be to buy all of these books in hardback. Some of them are have only been out a few months. And some of these are books that I tried to get as an ebook from Netgalley over the last few months and they were rejected, probably because they are so popular. And it happens, sometimes you don't get proofs from Netgalley, sometimes because the author is so big, the book is so popular, too many requests, whatever the case is, but I always keep my eye on them so that I can read them at a later date, and a lot of those were ready to go at the library. So I was saying to the ladies as I was checking out, I'm really sorry, there's 10 books. And she said, oh no, that's fine. I said, it's just when you really like these books, they've been on your radar a while and you see them, you think you have to grab them before somebody else takes them. And she said they've got even more stock at the back that they were waiting to bring forward. So it's very exciting to see that the library has such current and fantastic reads and that even more are coming out. And I will start using the reservation service again, because some books, we're quite lucky in Lancashire, we have so many libraries that are under the umbrella of the Lancashire County Council, but occasionally they might have a book that I want to read that's really recent and there might only be one copy in a different library in the whole of the Lancashire County Council. But you put a reservation down, you pay I think 75p or £1, something like that, and then obviously they text you when it's ready to come in. So I think for some of the hot releases I'll be doing that. But without further ado, I'm going to show you what I have taken out from the library. So the first one I've taken out is Rebecca Mackay's The Great Believers. Now this has been on my radar for the last few months over lockdown. A lot of people have referenced this as almost a modern classic. It's at that realm where it's still quite recent, so I don't think we class it as a modern classic yet, but it has that feel that a lot of people say this is a feel-good, chunky fiction that you'll get lost in. Yeah, it only came out in 2018. But this deals with the AIDS epidemic. And there is another book that is on the BookTube fiction list this year. I think it's called The Pretty Star, that's dealing with the AIDS epidemic and a character going back to their estranged family. And I recently watched It's a Sin on Channel 4, which absolutely blew up in the UK, that was dealing with the AIDS epidemic in the UK and about how the men from London were going to university experimenting with their sexuality, coming out as gay, and then not realising about AIDS and not necessarily taking their sexual health seriously at the time. And then obviously the devastating consequences in the groups at university with people contracting the illness and dying. So I know it's going to be very heartbreaking, but I found that It's a Sin was so powerful to me and I was so lost in that story that a lot of people have kind of sprung board off watching the success of It's a Sin to recommend this particular book. If you liked It's a Sin, you'll like this. I've kind of got that vibe from a lot of booktubers when It's a Sin came out a few months back on Channel 4. It says it's set in Chicago in 1984 and Paris in 2015. It's a story of how love can both rescue and destroy us, a thrilling, addictive novel full of characters whom the reader comes to know as friends, colleagues and lovers. And I also am obsessed with Pose, which has recently come out on Netflix. Had season 1, 2, maybe there's 3 seasons. Yeah, there might be 3 seasons because I think the 4th one is coming out shortly. But that also deals with the AIDS crisis in the US and about the ballroom culture and about drag and things like that. So I found that that was beautiful, and I'm really drawn to LGBT queer fiction. I just find the stories have so much more depth in some ways than a heteronormative relationship. I don't know how to describe that, and I don't want that to be seen as something offensive. I just think that the romance stories, especially with the wave of AIDS and how devastating it is, makes for very poignant stories. And It's a Sin was really making me think, because my mother was talking about it being her generation and she has just turned 60, and she was saying how many gay men didn't make it to their 60th year in life because of the AIDS epidemic and all their stories that weren't told. And I just think that's a really powerful and haunting thing. So yeah, I really want to get to this one. And then I also took out A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. Now this was the BookTube Prize winning novel in 2019, and this author also wrote The Heart's Invisible Furies, which is a BookTube darling and is very much people who love books, and a lot of people who've done lists of their very favourite books of all time mention The Heart's Invisible Furies. It's almost a book lover's darling, if you will. So this one I don't know anything about, but obviously when I saw that it was on the 2019 BookTube Prize as the winner, I didn't judge or read any of the 2019 selection, but I kind of wanted to go back and tick this off the list. But it says it talks about a chance encounter in a Berlin hotel with the celebrated author Eric Ackerman, gives Maurice an opportunity. Eric is lonely, he has a story to tell, whether or not he should is another matter. Once Maurice has made his name, he finds himself in need of a fresh idea. He doesn't care where he finds it as long as it helps him rise to the top. So yeah, I trust the BookTube community that this will be a good read. I just picked it up when I was there at the library because there was multiple copies of this, and it has been on my radar to tick off, as obviously it was the winner in 2019. So yes, I'm quite excited to get to this one. And the next one I have is Burnt Sugar by Avi Doshi. This obviously has been on the shortlist for the Man Booker Prize 2020, and I've seen a lot of people talk about it because I think it's in contention for the Women's Prize for Fiction as well. I think it's currently on their long list. The shortlist will be announced shortly. This is a story about a mother and a daughter, I'm pretty sure. I've recently finished Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi, and that surprisingly was about religion and science, but it also had an overlap of a mother and daughter relationship. And I know that Eric over at A Lonesome Reader, he always judges with Anna James, who has written the series of children's books. They always every year do the predicted shortlist and long list, and they were mentioning on the recent video that's on Eric's channel, which I'll link down below, about how a lot of the long-listed Women's Prize for Fiction books have an overlapping theme of mother and daughter relationships. That seems to be something that's in common with quite a lot of the long list this year, and obviously this is no exception. So it says on the back, sometimes I refer to Ma in the past tense even though she is still alive. I'm grieving, but it's too early to burn the body. I know that so many people commented on how beautiful the actual book is itself, the purple and green, that kind of lilac purple. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and I think it kind of sticks in your mind. So this has been on my radar for a while because I did want to go back and read all of the 2020 Man Booker long list. Hadn't really got around to it. I read quite a lot of them, but this was one that I just didn't manage to get to. But I don't know much more than that, so it was just on my radar recently with seeing it being mentioned in that video, and I wanted to get around to reading it. I know it's also a debut as well, so I'll let you guys know about this one. And then the next one I have is The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. This was one I tried to request on Netgalley and unfortunately didn't receive. But I have been a Will Dean fan since I read the first book of the Tuva Moodysson series that he has out. The first one was Dark Pines. I really enjoyed that. Tuva's a really interesting protagonist. She's deaf. And the way he deals with that is really interesting. I have the other two books in that series on the shelf behind me, Red Snow and Black River, maybe? Yellow River, something like that. And I still need to get to them. They are on my radar. I've had a really bad habit at the moment of starting so many different crime series and not ticking them off yet. I probably need to do a separate video with you guys going through a lot of the series of thrillers that I have open and putting them on a TBR and maybe doing like an extended vlog at some point when I've got a lot of time and go through them, because I've got the last book, Troubled Blood by Robert Galbraith. I started the very first Poirot, not continued with that yet. I've started the very first Inspector Morse book, I didn't continue on with that yet. I've started the very first Frida Klein book, still need to continue on with that. And I've got Tuva's collection to finish, so there's a few. But anyway, I took this out because this is a standalone thriller, so hopefully I'll be able to just tick this off in one go. So this is about a woman. It says her husband calls her Jane, that is not her name. She lives in a small farm cottage surrounded by open fields. She feels trapped. No one knows how she got to the UK, no one knows she is there. Her husband records her every movement. I mean, the cover indicates there'll be some kind of fire, pyromania, madness going on, but so many people have said this was amazing that have read it. He's really well regarded in the booktube community, and I also listen to What Page Are You On pod that follows Alice Slater and Bethany Rutter, and he is a friend of theirs and they speak very highly of him. Obviously, because I loved the first Tuva Moodysson book so much, I will be getting to this pretty damn soon. Then the next one I have is A Crooked Tree by Una Mannion. This I could have requested on Netgalley when it first came out, but as they say, I missed the boat on this one. But then, again mentioning the girls on What Page pod, they rated this book really highly, said it was a really good, quick thriller. So it stayed on my radar, and then when I saw it at the library, I just snatched it. A lot of these books in about 15 minutes, they were all on the same new read shelf. I was like, yes, this is what I want. I've been waiting ages for that one. That's been on my radar. So it was a mad dash, and this was in the mad dash. So this follows a girl in the car with her mother, and I think they have an argument, and she pulls up on the side of the road and tells her to get out. And I'm pretty sure from there the girl goes missing, and then it's a bit of a thriller of what happened. I think this cover is really beautiful, and I think the back is really interesting, the car seat as well. I think it's very memorable. Yeah, her daughter Ellen is out on the roadside, and then it's a thriller from there. I'm quite happy just to know that much, because usually with thrillers, the less you know the better, so that they can build that suspense. All of these are like pretty much brand new. Even the Boyne and the Mackay book are in like beautiful condition, so you almost feel an extra win, because I think I'm the first person to have read any of these from the library, so I'm very happy with that. And then the next one I have is Red Pill by Harry Kunzru. But this again is another book that I tried to request when it first came out from Netgalley. It just sounded an intriguing premise, so let me have a little look. When a Brooklyn writer leaves behind his young family to take up the offer of a 3-month residency at the Deuter Center on the shore of Berlin's Lake Wannsee, he arrives with romantic dreams of days devoted to total artistic absorption. However, the centre turns out to be anything but the idyllic ride-to-Lee retreat he imagines, and rather than study at the clinical and closely monitored desk assigned to him, he opts to spend much of the time holed up in his bedroom watching Blue Lives, an ultraviolet cop show with a bleak and merciless view of the world. I think it sounded really surreal and odd, and a little bit scary, and maybe a little bit horror genre. And I don't know why, it just appealed to me. I don't usually go for surrealist, but it seemed like it was going to have a dark overtone to it that I was intrigued to find out. So I didn't want to pay for this book, that's why I requested it from Netgalley, but it stayed on my radar even though I didn't get it, and I thought maybe if the library ever had it I'd pick it up, because I didn't want to pay full price for it because I don't know whether I'll love it, but it's always intrigued me enough that I wanted to pick it up. So there's that one. Then I have Every Last Fear by Alex Finlay. April over at Getting Hygge with it, and Mara from Books Like Woe have both mentioned this book recently. It is a thriller. It is a highly regarded thriller. I think it's rated quite highly on Goodreads. I saw it. It's been on my radar. I thought, why not? So it was part of the mad scramble. So it says, university student Matt Pine has just received devastating news. Nearly his entire family have just been found while holidaying in Mexico. The local police claim it was an accident, but the FBI aren't convinced and they won't tell Matt why. So I really enjoyed Bluebird recently, and I do like police procedurals or investigative FBI criminology style tightly woven thrillers, trying to piece together things. They're kind of my go-to thrillers, and I think it's going to tick a lot of those boxes and really get into the investigation. This cover reminds me a little bit of there's a Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I really want to read. I know that's YA, but I think the covers are quite similar, so they might be quite similar in style. Let me know if they are, because I do really want to get to the Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But yeah, I'm excited to get to this one. And then I've just got 3 more, guys. So the next one I've got is Daddy by Emma Cline. This is a series of short stories, and I definitely didn't want to pay for a copy of this. So this has been on my radar because it got a little bit of mixed reviews. I think Simon over at Savage Reads enjoyed this, but didn't love it. I think it's a series of collections about men and misogyny and relationships to women, and I read her book The Girls. I didn't love it, but I found it really interesting. I thought I was going to love it more because it was centered kind of around the Manson family cult, and I know there's another book, Beautiful Revolutionary, that's kind of based on another cult, the Jim Joneses cult. And I want to get to that one as well at some point. But I liked certain bits of it. It just wasn't what I expected. I thought it was just going to be more centered around the cult, but it wasn't. I didn't love it, but enjoyed it. So this was on my radar because I think her writing is good, and I was interested to see what else she produced. This is slightly different because it's going to be a short story collection, not a novel. So I think some people have enjoyed some of the stories in the collections, but not all of them. So I'll see how I get on with this, but I saw it there and it's been on my radar, brand new. I thought, why not? Because I think it'll be quite an easy read, fast, and then I can just take it back. And then the next one I have is Hot Stew by Fiona Mosley. I literally don't know anything about this, but I've seen this on Bookstagram a lot, and I've seen a few people say really great things about it. Enough for it to have stuck out in my mind. I think the aesthetic of the hardback is beautiful enough that it sticks in your mind anyway, but I think it's got quite an iconic pop arty kind of cover that drew me in. So let's find out together what it's actually about. So it says, pungent, steamy, insatiable Soho, the only part of London that truly never sleeps. Tourists dawdling, chancers skulking, addicts shuffling, sex workers strutting, punters prowling, businessmen striding, the homeless and the lost. Down Wardour Street, ducking onto Dean Street, sweeping into Elscargo, darting down quiet back alleyways, skirting dumpsters and drunks, emerging onto raucous main roads, fizzing with energy and righteous with life. Precious and Tabitha call the top floors their home, but it's under threat. Its billionaire owner Agatha wants to kick the women out to build expensive restaurants and luxury flats. So I think it's basically about Soho. I thought the introduction was a bit of a tongue twister for my mouth there, but it's popping with a lot of visceral imagery around Soho and the community that live there and the community being under threat. That sounds quite interesting to me. So I'm going into this one with an open mind because I really didn't have any expectations of it or what it was going to be about, and that actually sounds quite intriguing. So we'll see how I get on with this one. And then the last one I have for you guys is Exit Manager by Naomi Booth. I saw this around recently on the Instagram, the YouTube, the book world. Laura Williams, author of The Supper Club, that she's put an essential novel for our times, so sounds very interesting. As Callum has been given an opportunity, Joseph's house is the perfect place to live, plenty of room, a sought after London location and filled with priceless works of art. All that Joseph asks in return is for some company while he's ill and the promise that if it all gets too much, someone will be there to help him at the end. So interestingly, a lot of the themes of these books have been about houses and buildings, but I do actually quite like when a story revolves around a building or a house and how that can take on a character all of its own, like the theme sometimes of a house being haunting or different, or about the intimacies of relationships behind closed doors. So this is an interesting premise for a book. This seems like a deal has been struck up by these two characters and it's going to develop from there. So I've got an open mind for this one, but this has also received quite good reviews, so I'm excited to get to this one. So they're all the books that I took out of the library. I have a few Netgalley books that I need to get to. I will just flick onto my Kindle now and just highlight for you some of the ones that are on my to be read list. The most exciting ones. Currently I have 30 proofs to read. In between those, I will also be getting through some of these. My course starts again mid-May, so I've had a bit of a break, so I'm going to try and squeeze in as much reading as I can. And I finished my quarterfinals reading for the BookTube prize, so the next time will be June. So I have about a month free of any other obligations, so I'm going to try and power through some books. But I'll tell you the ones that are on my library list so far. So I'm currently reading Madame by Phoebe Wine, which is about a girl's boarding school and something goes wrong. It's quite intriguing me at the moment. I'm only about 10% into it, very early doors, but that got quite good reviews as a dystopian-esque story. So I'll tell you guys obviously more about it when I wrap it up at some point. I also have Saint X by Alexis Shaitkin. That's a thriller that's been going around. I don't know anything about these. I just got intrigued by the little synopsis on Netgalley of these, clicked away and got approved. So don't quote me on any of these. But I think that's kind of a summer thriller. I don't know anything about it. I've also got Greenwich Park, which is by Catherine Faulkner. The girls on What Page Are You On podcast talked about it recently and said that it was a little bit confusing. Alice didn't really enjoy it so much, but I've heard so many people say it's the big thriller of this year. It says as the caption line, when you have it all, you have so much more to lose. It has a, see if you can see it here, has like cracked wallpaper, so don't know much about that. I also was approved for Under the Blue by Oana Aristide. And I saw that that was also at the library, but I didn't pick it up because I currently have the proof of it, so I was only picking stuff that I didn't have. I also have Mirrorland by Carol Johnston, and that one has had rave reviews by Stephen King, and I've seen it blowing up all over Instagram and Goodreads. It's had really good reviews. That seems to be like one of the thrillers that's gonna blow up this year. I also was approved Lisa Tadeo's new book, which is Animal, which is fiction, and her first book, Three Women, I didn't really rate very much, but I didn't like the whole exploitative nature of that book, and really that should have not been a non-fiction in some ways. I just didn't like the playing around with people's stories and exploiting them, and I think the way she propositioned the book as a book about desire was problematic. But this is a fiction, so I'm intrigued. It's very dark, and it seems like there's going to be some scary things going on, so I'm quite excited for that one. We also got approved Legacy by Nora Roberts, which is the latest Nora Roberts novel. I haven't read any Nora Roberts, but I know she's well regarded within the booktube community, and I thought, why not try her new book? I didn't really think I'd get approved for it, so that was quite good. And the last one that's probably of any interest to you guys is I got accepted for The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. But obviously that was the author of The Silent Patient. This is a new book by him. It seems like it's going to be so juicy. It says your new obsession. Again, I don't know much about it. It seemed like it had a bit of the Secret History by Donna Tartt vibes to it. Didn't really think I'd be accepted for this one, to be honest, again, so that was quite good. So those are the top ones in my Netgalley TBR that I want to get to, and obviously I'll be ploughing my way through these books. So thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry if this was a really long video, but I'll be back very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.